you solved a huge problem.
Yes.
That was a very, very big problem.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're behind Wallet of Satoshi's non-custodial aspect.
Yes, exactly. Right.
How did you do that?
Well, wow. I think fast, real-time, trustless, as much as possible, trustless Bitcoin will definitely move all of the money in the world. And it's just a matter of when, not a matter of if. And I'm talking about trillions of dollars a day. I'm absolutely convinced of that. It's just really, how long is it going to take?
Money is archaic.
Yes.
It has not evolved. It has not moved.
And if we can create a true open internet of money on top of Bitcoin, an invisible layer, then we solve that problem for billions of people and millions of businesses.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin IRL. I'm here in beautiful Lugano, Switzerland with the one, the only David Marcus. David, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
David, you've gone from PayPal to Meta to Lightspark. What's been the through line through this journey and how has it ended in Bitcoin?
Well, the through line has been that I've been in payments for longer than I can remember. So before PayPal, I had a mobile payments company that got acquired by PayPal. That's how I ended up running it at some point. And then at Meta, I took a sabbatical for payments for 4 years building messaging and Messenger. But then I was really frustrated with a lack of progress, especially around how money didn't move around the world and still moved the same way it moved 50 years ago. And so I tried and failed the Libra/DM project, and then learned a lot and went back to my roots of Bitcoin, which I fell into in 2011, and have now built this unshakable conviction that if you're trying to build an open money network, you can only build it on Bitcoin because everything else will eventually die or be killed or be abused by humans. And the fact that Bitcoin is secured by code and is so neutral makes it the only one fit for purpose. And that's the arc of how I ended up starting Lightspark.
You know, it's really interesting with your experience at Libra because I covered Bitcoin news. I have to, right? So I remember that whole saga that was happening. And initially it was, just caught on very quickly. And then before you know it, the regulations just started piling in.
Yeah.
And now that you're telling me this, because I came to that conclusion. I was like, look, I think you could do this with Bitcoin. And then you're coming to that realization as well with your experience. And now you're at Lightspark. That it's like a full circle, huh?
It is. It is. I mean, in fairness, we looked at doing it on Bitcoin because that was my initial instinct when we were starting Libra, but and we spent time really looking closely at the Lightning Network. But what we realized really quickly is that the Lightning Network, circa 2018, would have not scaled to actually meet billions of people with self-custody wallets on WhatsApp, etc. So we had to go build something proprietary, and that was the problem. Like the minute you have a throat to choke, and you're starting to be systemic or pose a systemic risk to payment systems and monetary systems, the throat will get choked.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. So, David, despite all your success in life, right? These are conglomerates that you've worked on. What still motivates you to, continue to build on Bitcoin and Lightning?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's the insanity of how money doesn't move today, right? It's like we're here in beautiful Lugano where earlier today on stage, someone was talking about how to do brain-machine interface, and someone was able to drive a car with their brain without touching the car. And we're still moving money in the same way that we moved money in the 70s. And you can't move money on weekends. You can't move money on Fridays after 5 p.m. A Swift correspondent banking transfer costs $45 to $50. Only banks have access to it. It's crazy. And so we feel that there's like trillions of dollars worth of GDP that's actually stuck by the limitations of current payment systems. And if we can create a true open internet of money on top of Bitcoin, an invisible layer, and the way that we think about Bitcoin is literally TCP/IP for money. And so an invisible layer of Bitcoin that actually interoperates domestic real-time payment systems, so you can move from dollars to Mexican peso, from Mexican peso to euro, from euro to Japanese yen, etc. in real time, 24/7 at a very low cost. And then in some cases use stablecoins, in some cases use Bitcoin, but all settling on an open, decentralized, fast, cheap Bitcoin, then we solve that problem for billions of people and millions of businesses. So that really gets me excited, because I think that after your health, which you typically don't really think about until you don't have it anymore, money is really what matters the most to people, and it's so broken, and Bitcoin can fix that.
Yeah, I love the way that you described it, which was, we live in this modern world. Cars literally drive themselves. You could take an airplane and be in another location anywhere around the world in 24 hours. We're all interconnected, calling each other instantaneously overseas. I remember when growing up, like if you call Europe, it'd be like $2 a minute or something like that.
Yeah.
Like now you can FaceTime instantaneously the other person for free. The other person's on another continent. But money is archaic.
Yes.
It has not evolved. It has not moved. There are these limitations. Now, my question to you is like, is that because of the inherent centralization of it? Is that the limitation? Is it a regulatory thing? Why hasn't money innovated the ways that other technologies have innovated?
So it's all of these things, but the banking industry is absolutely world-class at defending their business. And I think that if you're trying to build a closed system to replace an existing closed system, and by closed system, I mean a system that's actually controlled by a corporation, a consortium, a foundation, a CEO, and you're starting to take too much share, there's always going to be a way to stop you in your tracks. And I get that question a lot from people who have observed what has happened with Libra, which is like, now the regulatory landscape has changed so profoundly that if you were to do it now, it would work. And my answer is it would probably launch, but then eventually fail. Because if you're a centralized, what I call corp chain, and you're starting to intermediate 30, 40% of in and out flows to Europe, Mexico, Brazil, India, those countries will shut you down because they can call someone and shut you down. And Bitcoin, you can't shut it down. And so if you build a fast settlement network that depends on Bitcoin, that settles in real time, that inherits the trustlessness of Bitcoin and the openness and decentralization of Bitcoin, but you can move any kind of money, like fiat currency, stable coins, anything, at a very competitive rate, then everyone will adopt it. And that's what we've been building.
I want to tell you about the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. What makes Bitcoin Well different? What makes it unique? It's an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos, because after all, self-custody is the revolution. By the way, if you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, as soon as you make your first purchase, you get 3 opportunities to win up to 1 million Satoshis just for signing up and buying a little bit of Bitcoin. Seems like a win-win. What are you waiting for? Go to bitcoinwell.com/simply today.
David, you've worked at, some of the biggest tech conglomerates, financial conglomerates. At this point, do you believe that they still don't understand it? Do you believe they're starting to get it? And why is a company like, PayPal or Meta, again, so well capitalized, extremely profitable? Is it because they're so like the analogy of the Titanic, right? Like Titanic's so big, it takes so long to turn, versus like a startup where, you're very nimble, you're very flexible. It's a very long-winded way of asking, where do you think these tech companies and financial companies stand as it regards to Bitcoin? And does it even matter?
I mean, I think it matters to the extent that for any payment system at scale, you want more distribution, and those networks provide massive distribution. But I think the question is not whether they care about Bitcoin. I think, companies, people, businesses, they care about having a specific problem fixed in their lives. And the problem that needs to be fixed right now, for most people, is, do you have access to sound money? Okay. And if you do that, can you move that money at a low cost freely like you move any other content type on the internet? And if Bitcoin is the solution for that, then that's what everyone will use, including those large companies. And I think that's the problem. It's like, it's not because you believe in Bitcoin, and there's always a Bitcoiner in one of these companies, at least one or many, which is a big difference when you're building something proprietary. You don't have Bitcoiners rooting for you. But at the end of the day, it's not because you're a Bitcoiner at one of these companies that they're going to adopt it. It's because you're actually solving problems that their users need solving. And I think, we bring a very pragmatic approach to the problem. We are focused on everyday payments and making Bitcoin win at everyday payments. And I think if we do that successfully, then everyone else, including those large companies, will end up being on the network and offering those services to their customers.
Yeah, because the market forces come into effect, and they have to offer it or they get left behind by their competition. No, that makes perfect sense. David, I know we're in this beautiful lake backdrop.
It is.
It's not a green
Amazing.
screen, everybody, by the way.
It's amazing.
But I want you to pretend that we're in an elevator for 2 to 3 minutes, and I don't know who you are. And you had 2 to 3 minutes to basically describe what Lightspark is. How would you do it?
Internet for money built on Bitcoin. The built on Bitcoin is relevant to us, not necessarily relevant to consumers, but it's an important part because it's the only network that's truly open and decentralized. At the end of the day, I ask people a question. If I want you in an elevator in the US now to send $5 to someone in Europe or in Mexico, and they need the money in a second, can you do it? And the answer is no, you can't. Like, for the most part, people can't do it. And if they can, it's on a closed network, it's expensive, almost extractive pricing. And that's what we want to solve. We want to make money move on the internet using Bitcoin like any other content type moves on the internet. And I think, that's something that people can really understand.
Yeah, it's such a no-brainer, right? Why, if you could send a text and it's received instantaneously, why shouldn't money be the same?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah, so I completely agree. What has been some of the biggest technical hurdles and regulatory hurdles you've experienced building Lightspark?
The regulatory were fine. I think, for me, it was like the best whiplash effect ever. Like, from having a project shut down by Janet Yellen personally on a morning of June 2021 to being welcomed at the White House for a Digital Asset Summit. Like, it's like
that's a very
big
nice
whiplash.
Vindication. Huh?
Yeah, it's like it's definitely when it happens with this kind of sequence, it's a good thing. But no, I think the regulatory framework is here for us to execute, so it's fine. There are a few things that still remain to be done, but I think none that are really blocking. The technical challenge, so when we started working on this, like, the first priority was really making Bitcoin fast and cheap to move. And so we started really investing heavily onto the Lightning Network, which we did. And then we realized that there were a bunch of limitations that the Lightning Network couldn't fix. It's still great at a bunch of different things, but like really not great for instance, stablecoin issuance on top of Bitcoin, self-custody wallets for real-time Bitcoin payments. And so we built a brand new L2 on top of Bitcoin called Spark that we launched about 6 months ago, which it has taken off like crazy as of late. And so we're bringing so much developer and builder energy back to Bitcoin now, which makes me really happy. And you see all kinds of new wallets being built on top of Bitcoin for the first time. You see issuers issuing stablecoins on top of Spark. So that was kind of the technical challenge, is like, how do you make the base layer really be super competitive with the best closed payment systems in the world? And then we had this big partner summit last week in LA, where we had all of our customers and partners coming from 14 different countries. And one of the things that I described us as like our job as Bitcoin plumbers. And that's what we do. We connect Bitcoin, fast, cheap Bitcoin, to all of the domestic payment systems in the world. So you can move from any currency to any currency in real time and use Bitcoin as this invisible TCP/IP for money in between that make two networks that couldn't talk to each other basically talk Bitcoin. And that's been like insanely successful. And, last week we had the first US bank launch on the network, SoFi, where you can now, if you have a SoFi account, send money cross-border in real time for the most competitive fee ever. And you don't even know you're using Bitcoin. You're just sending dollars to someone receiving Mexican peso on the other side. And if we were sitting here a year ago, and I would tell you a US bank, public company, is using Bitcoin to allow millions of customers to send money cross-border in real time in an invisible manner, even last year, it would have sounded like crazy, and now it's real. So I think, we're really, really focused on real world use cases and bringing it all the way to consumers and businesses and abstracting the complexity of dealing with Bitcoin altogether.
Do you need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted source for Bitcoin-backed lending, with transparency, security, and trust at their core. Backed by $9 billion of Bitcoin loans funded and over 1,000 5-star reviews. I absolutely love these guys because of their flexibility. You can pay back your loan whenever you want. And there are no monthly payments, so you pay at the end of the term. You get lightning fast access to capital. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you get the cash into your account within 18 hours. Unlock the liquidity of your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Check out Ledn today.
Do you think you can build a product that is so user-friendly that consumers actually use it?
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example, right? And actually, my dad told me this a long time ago, and it always stuck with me. There was like a theory in the 90s that everyone would have a computer in their house. And that theory proved to be right. But the actual implementation of it was not a keyboard and, an LCD screen and a mouse. It was literally an iPhone, right? So I guess that's the example I'm giving, right? So do you think it could ever get to that point where it's so user-friendly that, you can hand it to grandma and she's going to be like, oh, this
Of course.
And she doesn't even know she's using Lightning. Right?
Exactly. But that's the point. That's the key. The key is at times we in the industry have created products that requires so much cognitive load on consumers and tribal knowledge and, swim across the lake, jump over fire, do all these things, and then you can use the product if you are so deserving. And we think that the good technology disappears, fades in the background. You don't even know you're using it. And that's the case, like the example I gave you with SoFi or with Nubank in Brazil, or the technology is completely obfuscated. You're just sending money and it just works and you don't care. When people send an email, they don't care about SMTP and TCP/IP. The same should be true for Bitcoin. And that's how you make it part of everyday payments. And gradually, through other tools like Spark and others, you create many, many wallets as well, where people start holding a little bit of Bitcoin and they learn about Bitcoin gradually. They start caring. And so, the two go hand in hand. If you want to make Bitcoin part of everyday payments, first thing you have to do is make it invisible and really useful for people to move any type of money on top of it. Gradually create more and more Bitcoin wallets with small deposits where people care. And then they start using the unit of account also for commerce and payments eventually. But I think it's a 1-2 step.
Yeah. So 1-2 step. And do you think there's an educational component to it? Or do you think it's just make the product so good that it's just...
For the second part, I think it's more like people just stumbling upon it. The interesting thing that we've come to realize is I'm a big fan of Bitcoin rewards, right? So if you think about it, it's a great way to get Bitcoin in the hands of hundreds of millions of people. And we realized that it really wasn't possible before to spin up a self-custodial wallet and then drop you 5 cents of Bitcoin, because with Lightning, you have the channel problem. You have to place liquidity in front of every wallet. And so with Spark, you're able to do that. And we just launched this product last week, which is called Lightspark Grid, or you can use as a company to start rewarding people with small amounts of Bitcoin on wallets that you spin up that are super consumer friendly. And so we think that that's a great way to get many people onto Bitcoin, using Bitcoin for the first time and starting to care about it. And we think that's going to be huge. And this is just one of hundreds of examples where people are going to slowly be exposed to Bitcoin. And as they get slowly exposed to Bitcoin, they'll start caring.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the Bitcoin rewards aspect, right? You're incentivizing. And then once people see that Bitcoin is better money, it's a more efficient payment system, they're not going to go back.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It's a journey, but it's a one-way door.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah,
which is a good thing. Now, I have a question for you, which I think the community has kind of been experiencing this as a whole, and just Bitcoin. So I think custodial Lightning is great at this moment.
I agree.
It's usable.
I agree.
I don't have to jump through hurdles.
Yep.
I'm a Bitcoiner, but I'm a media guy. I'm not a tech guy, right?
Yep.
So I tried setting up a non-custodial wallet, but and then you got to balance the chance. Let's just say it just was not user-friendly whatsoever. Do you think we'll ever get to a point where non-custodial Lightning is feasible?
No, and that's why we built Spark. So with Spark, you get non-custodial Lightning through Spark. And so that, for instance, wallet of Satoshi that left the US because they were doing, things in a way to actually provide a good user experience with Lightning that wasn't going to be sustainable. And so now they came back because they've integrated Spark, and you have Lightning and Spark and Bitcoin.
Oh, so you're behind Wallet of Satoshi's non-custodial aspect.
Yes, exactly. So this is built on Spark, right?
How did you do that?
Because it's built on Spark, and Spark.
How do you do that behind the scenes?
because Spark is backward compatible with Lightning, and so now you can actually spin up a wallet. Xverse now is running on Spark. Now WDK, the Tether WDK wallet for the Lightning part is running on Spark, and 24 other wallets have launched and are launching now, like building Lightning and Spark and Bitcoin L1 support on Spark. And that's why Spark is taking off, because you can do self-custody Lightning in one simple implementation without having to worry about any of the complexities of Lightning. And then you get all of the benefits of all of the Spark tokens, which are stable coins, and also all kinds of different tokens on Bitcoin for the first time.
So how did you figure out that problem?
It's a hard problem. We have a very smart CTO who got really frustrated with Lightning and caught COVID and was at home for 3 days. And he came back and he's like, I have an idea. I think it might work. And then we worked very hard on it for over a year and launched Spark 6 months ago. And it's solving a lot of problems for Bitcoin builders now.
So it's again, completely non-custodial. So no one could access that Lightning wallet unless they have the seed phrase. If you had the seed phrase, you can take it from wallet of Satoshi to another.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it's like, I won't get into like a Bitcoiner debate on because self-custody for some people, it's only on L1. If you have a UTXO that you have self-custody, and even Lightning is not self-custodial for people. But to us, it is self-custodial, meaning like it's fully portable on the network. If you have the seed phrase, and you have your keys, and plus we have unilateral exits to L1, meaning that if you want to recover your funds on L1 and you don't want to ask for permission to anyone, you can do it at any given point in time, which inherits basically all of the trustlessness of Bitcoin L1.
You solved a huge problem.
Yes.
That was a very, very big problem.
Yeah.
And that was like metaphorically beating my head against the wall. And I was like, there's absolutely no way, to integrate Lightning into your business. Like as an individual, like most people aren't going to balance channels. Like that's crazy. Right. And then as a business, we have a merch store and all that stuff. And we were trying to find a plugin and it was just like, layer one is so easy, but Lightning, it was like impossible.
Layer one is easy, but 40 minutes or, and a lot and high fees.
Exactly. No one's going to want to pay $3 to, buy
you want instant payment.
Exactly. Yeah. And the confirmation, it takes time. Wow.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
Are there any other, Lightning wallet developers that are implementing using you guys?
Yeah. So I mean, for instance, Breeze that has been working in Lightning as a grower, and the team has been amazing. And so they've built a Spark SDK, and they call it Nodeless Lightning basically. And now like they have dozens of wallets using their SDK to build on Lightning and Spark. And so like they're enabling a giant part of the ecosystem. But like every day I wake up and there's a new wallet being built because it's so easy now to build a Bitcoin wallet with Lightning and Spark support, and so like it's really fascinating.
Can I ask you which one's your personal favorite?
I don't know. It changes all the time. It's like there's this interesting wallet that has been built by a very small team, like super scrappy. It's called the BitBit wallet.
I gotta write that
and it's
down.
Great on X because you can tip people.
On X?
On X. So you can tip people if you add the extension to your browser. Then, it adds a little lightning bolt to any tweet, and you can tap the thing and tweet that. And I can tip you like 5 sats cost effectively in real time. And they've been building all kinds of different things. Xverse has done a really good job. I think Wallet of Satoshi's implementation for Lightning is really great. Yeah, there's so much.
Do you ever foresee a world where Lightning, replaces Visa or the SWIFT system, or do you think they'll live in parallel?
I think let's call it this way. Like, I think like fast Bitcoin, whether it's Lightning, Spark, a combination of Spark and Lightning, I don't know. But I think fast, real-time, trustless, as much as possible, trustless Bitcoin will definitely move all of the money in the world. And it's just a matter of when, not a matter of if. And I'm talking about trillions of dollars a day. I'm absolutely convinced of that. It's just really how long is it going to take? And my hope is we get to build this, when I can still see it and enjoy it. So hopefully soon.
That's inspiring to hear. Now, David, it's been a very interesting, year for Bitcoin. I would say last 2 years. And why am I saying this? So you had the approval of the Bitcoin ETF, which was January of 2024. Begrudgingly, the last administration, this is not a clean launch.
Yes.
But I think, BlackRock had a lot of influence and they were able, finally the ETF was approved. But Bitcoin I feel like it's grown up. It's not a retail driven, asset anymore. It's become more institutional. What's your take on that? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Was that always an inevitable thing?
I think, look, adoption of Bitcoin by leading financial institutions, I think, is a necessary prerequisite for it to become part of everyday mainstream payments. And what I mean by that is that if you have large institutions that start to care about Bitcoin, then the risk of Bitcoin, being disrupted diminishes because they have a financial interest in Bitcoin doing well. I think I saw today that JP Morgan was going to enable people to use Bitcoin as collateral for mortgages, which is wild. Like, when you hear Jamie Dimon speak about Bitcoin over years, right? And so I think all of this is great. And I think Bitcoin being part of everyday financial life, whether you can borrow against Bitcoin more easily at a lower rate, whether you can use it as a collateral for a mortgage, whether people who would have not bought Bitcoin can buy Bitcoins with ETF. All of this is helping adoption. And yes, there are pockets of concentrations that we still need to be a little attentive to, because if one actually has a runway success and basically holds most of the Bitcoin and we have a single point of failure in the network, it's a problem. But right now, I think the benefits far outweighs the risks.
Yeah, absolutely. So David, final question. 500 years from now, 200 years from now, 1,000 years from now,
That's a long time.
How do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be?
I don't really think about that. All I care about is I hope that what we're building is actually going to accelerate the timeline for Bitcoin to be part of mainstream payments, and that we get to play a decent part in making that happen alongside with many other people.
David Marcus.
Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.